Recording in progress.
1 second, let me highlight that. Om Namah Pranavartaya Shuddha-jnanaika-murtaye Nirmalaya Prasantaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Shruti-smriti-purananam alayam karunalayam Namami Bhagavat-pada Sankaram Loka-sankaram Arunagiri-mupedam Sachidanandamurtim Ramana-iti Prithivyam Vishrutam Jnana-suryam Gahana-hridaya-vidyam Leelaya Bodhayantam Satatam-ahamameyam Sadgurum Samsmara. My humble pranams. We'll continue with our study of Anma Bodham. We stopped at a place, this was the 13th verse in Anma Bodham, where the description is about the subtle body, the Sukshma Shariram. Pancha Prana Mano Buddhi Dashendriya Samanvitam Apanchikrita Bhutottam Sukshmangam Bhoga Sadhanam, he says in this. He says the subtle body is Bhoga Sadhanam. It is a place for, experiencing the Bhogas. In the previous verse, Bhogayatanam was the word that was used. The previous verse is about the Bhautika Shariram. Bhautika Shariram, Shariram Sukha Dukkhanam Bhogayatanam. Bhogayatanam is the abode. It's a house. It's a place where you experience the Purva Karmas. That is what is the definition of the Bhautika Shariram. Whereas the subtle body, he says, is an experiencer. The body, the Sukshma, the Bhautika Shariram, the physical body just conveys pain or pleasure. But what experiences that pain or pleasure is the inner body, the Sukshma Shariram. So that is why he says it is Bhoga Sadhanam. There is another reason why the word Sadhanam is used. I will come to that a little later. We also saw that the subtle body or the Sukshma Shariram is also called as the Linga Shariram and also the Ativahika Shariram. Ativahika because this is the body along with the Karana Shariram, it leaves the physical body at the time of death and it seeks another body. The transmigration happens through this body. That is why it is also known as the Ativahika Shariram. Vahika is the same as vehicle. It transports itself to some other body and then a new life gets started in that. So that is the importance of the subtle body. The composition of the subtle body is the 5 pranas and the dashendriyas, the 10 indriyas, which are 5 karmendriyas and 5 jnanendriyas, plus these 5 pranas that I mentioned, mano buddhi, manas and buddhi. With this, there are about 17 components in this subtle body. In some texts, it is mentioned as 19 with the addition of the ahankaram and the chittam. Anyway, it is only a, it's an insignificant difference. So in this verse it says that 17 are the components of this body and the subtle body is the one that is the shariram that is there in the dream world. The dream world has this subtle body. Even without the indriyas operating, because we do not know anything about the body during sleep, this physical body is completely forgotten and we take on a dream body. And the mind itself becomes a substitute for all the indriyas. It hears, we hear things, we hear music, we touch people and all these things. Mind itself supplies all this information and so the subtle body has the avastha, which is known as the swapna avastha. And this is significant because, sometimes when we daydream, I sit here, but I think about something that but may be happening in India. When I do that, actually I take this subtle body and then go to India, all with this. So the subtle body's importance is not only in Nidra, even in the daydream. This is what? This is the body that is used. And finally, I will come to the most important thing. It is the subtle body that enables you to do sadhana. In the deep sleep state, we cannot do any sadhana. Though it is the closest to pure consciousness or pure beingness, there is nothing there. But there is something with which we are able to say after waking up that I had a good sleep. There was somebody witnessing that. That was the state of pure beingness, and as such it is the closest to the Atman. But even then, that is not the state of a jnani. A jnani is not in that state, which is totally tamas. It is full of ignorance and nescience. They call it as nescience. So the jnani's state is pure wakefulness combined with pure sleep. These two things. That is why it is known as Jagrat Sushupti. The awareness of the waking state is retained by the jnani, but the mental activities are totally discarded, as in the case of sleep. So that is why this is the fourth state, or Turiyam, and this is Atman. This is the ultimate state. This is the pure Shuddha Atman. So coming back, this causal body, though it is closest to the thing, to the Atman, unlike the subtle body, it is not useful for any kind of a effort or sadhana or some such thing, because there is no awareness of I. It is the I which has to do the sadhana. That I is prevailing only in the wakeful state, in a manner in which you will be able to direct your attention. In the dream state, nothing is in our control, because mind takes over completely and it, shows a picture to you. Whereas only in the wakeful state, it is possible to do, with the help of the subtle body, a sadhana. That is why it is important. In Bhagavad Gita, there is an extraordinary shloka which is worth recollecting. Shanaihi shanaihi uparamet buddhya dhriti grihitaya, says Lord Krishna. Buddhya, it is through buddhi, which is part of the subtle body, because that is where the determination takes place. You will in a manner that I will have to do sadhana. I will have to turn my mind. I will have to keep my mind empty of thoughts. All these things happen in the buddhi, and Lord Krishna says, dhriti grihitaya, it is with a lot of determination, with a good grip on the buddhi, you will be able to entice the mind. Uparamet, don't coerce the mind, but entice the mind. Coercion does not help. You cannot suppress the mind, because it will bounce back with multifold force. You will not be able to do that. We can see that actually. So you should be able to entice. Bhagavan gives the example of somebody who gives grass to a cow and then slowly leads it back to its own shed. Would you wander in all other places? There is good grass available for you in our own place. So he entices in a similar manner. The mind is enticed. It is encouraged to stay within the home, within one's own home, to enjoy the bliss of the self. Don't go outside. Nothing going to be found outside. That is the thing, and all these things are determined by the buddhi. Buddhya dhriti grihitaya atma samstam manah kritva na kinchidapi chintayet, he says. Keep the mind in the Atman and don't think of anything. So it is complete in itself. This verse is complete in itself, because buddhi is mentioned, manas is mentioned, Atma is mentioned, and the way in which you lead the mind into the Atman is also mentioned in this. So if you want to really do sadhana, then subtle body is the one that is going to be helpful to you. Keep the subtle body as pure as possible. That is, our mind should be pure. Our buddhi should not really waver, and it should have a good grip on the sadhana, and then you will be able to see progress in one's own sadhana. So this is the importance of subtle body. So I will go to the next verse. Anadi avidya anirvachya karanopadi ruchyate karana upadihi uchyate upadi tritayodanyam atmanam avadharayet. And Bhagavan's translation, adi atru itru endru arai onna. Itru means this way. It's not possible to define. This is what he says in this. Adi atru itru endru arai onna ajnanam oduvar adi upadiyai. The Moola Upadi, the first Upadi, Adi Upadi is also the Karana Upadi. Odum Upadihalam moon Rudalhalin Vera Upadiyil Anmavai Or. Upadihilil Verana Upadi Illada Atmavai Or. Upadiyil means Upadi Illada. The subtle grammar in Tamil where il has to be taken as not inside the Upadi but Upadi illada Atmavai or. Or means meditate on that, is what he says. Adi atru. There is no beginning for this avidya. This avidya, which is also Maya, it is beginningless. Anirvachya, it is not possible to describe what it is. Anirvachya means it's not possible to describe with the words. Karana upadihi uchyate, this causal body, Karana upadi, this body of nescience or body of darkness which we experience during our deep sleep, this is the Moola Upadi, the first Upadi. And Atma, he says, Upadi Tritayot Anyam. It is different from all the three Upadis, all the three bodies. Atma has no Upadi at all. Nirupadhikam, we say. Atmanam avadharayet. This is the way you will have to really meditate on the Atma, which is absolutely unconnected with everything. These Upadis are seen by a jiva. Atma does not see any of these Upadis. It's experienced out of ignorance by a jiva. How did it come about? How did this ignorance come about? Not possible to say. There is no answer for this. Caught up within the Maya, questioning the Maya is not possible. That is why they say that this is not the right question. The right question is, how do I get out of Maya? That is the only way to move. Many of us, waste our time to find why did it happen, why is it happening this way? Why should I have this kind of a body? Why should I have this kind of a circumstance in life and all these things? Absolutely no answer can be given by anybody except to say it is your karma, and then people are not satisfied with that answer. How can it be my karma? I have done so much good in this life, why should it happen to me and also? But this person who is really into this wants to find out what has happened to me, why am I facing all this suffering? For him, the advice that is given is, yes, it is good that you are feeling this way, but you find out how you can get out of this. And there are methods. How you can get out of it is the right question to ask. So he says, Anirvachya, it cannot be described. We cannot say that Maya is or Maya is not. Maya, we cannot say Maya is not because we are able to see this world which is Maya. So it is. But it is not because it is not real. So Anirvachya, Anadi, all these things we use for Atman also. Atman also, the real Vastu is also described as Anadi. It is Anirvachanam, Vachya. It is not possible to really describe what Atma is. All these things we say. But there is one difference between Atman and Maya. That difference is Maya comes to an end. There is Antam for Maya. There is no Antam for Atman. Anadi, Anantam. But this is Anadi and it has an Antam. There is an end to this Maya. If you really do the correct type of sadhana and then get out of the whole thing, it comes to an end. If Maya does not have an end, there will be no jnanis at all in this world. No jnanis to guide us. So, thankfully for us, Maya has an end and it can be put an end to by our own methods. To start with, Bhagavan says, don't even think that you are a limited person. Even this is a thought produced by the Maya. You are not limited. Amritasya putraha. I believe whenever Vivekananda made a speech in America, he always used to say this, you are all sinless. Because the Christian missionaries would begin with the sin, oh sinners. That would be the preaching. So, only for that purpose, Vivekananda used to make it a point to begin his speeches with, you are all Amritasya putraha. You are immortal souls. Why do you think that you are mortal? Mortality is just a thought. Just as Bhagavan says, death is a thought. Because it happens to your mind. You are not going to witness death. Because if you are able to witness death, then you are there. And you will not die. The real entity that is within you cannot witness death. It is just a thought. Others may see. It is for others to know that you are dead or not, but for you there is no death. Just think about it. You cannot witness death at all. All this is just our thoughts, Bhagavan says. Of course, it is easy to speak, but very difficult to imbibe that in our day-to-day living. So, Upadi Tritayot Anyam. From these three Upadis, there is some entity which is called as Atma. That Atmanam Avadharayet. You need to find out and then catch hold of that Atman. You have to separate the Atman from all these moving bodies. These bodies are not going to be real. Especially this Karana Shariram is so very difficult for us to even understand what it is. To some extent, we are able to see the movement of our thoughts and we are able to see the cognition that takes place in the buddhi and so on. But causal body is totally outside of our purview. And mind and buddhi, they become seed forms in this Karana Shariram. They remain in the seed form to sprout forth again when you wake up in the morning. Then this world comes out again. So this seed is what is contained in the Karana Shariram. The very reason why it is called as Karana Shariram, causal body, is because there is a seed there. It is able to sprout forth. And at the time of death, as I was mentioning, this Karana Shariram along with the seed of all the karmas, all those things, it moves. And the next life, Bhagavan says, Ishvara in his great compassion, he picks those karmas in the next life which are suitable for your sadhana. So he has given us a particular circumstance. Mine may not be as good as somebody else's. I may really require something more. In my mind, I may say that I would like to have this, I would like to have this. Maybe I should have done this. All these kinds of things will be there. But it has all been chosen and then given to you. And then we should be very grateful that we are in a position to, assemble like this and talk about it, think about it and all these things. Is out of his great compassion that the Lord has given this. And this Karana Shariram, along with the seed which is called as the mind of the buddhi, it is the one that is going to go into the next one. And out of all the karmas that have been accumulated, some karma will be picked up for you to enjoy in the next life, and that is known as the prarabdha karma, the karma that is meant for this particular life, that is prarabdha karma. And what we accumulate in this goes into that bag, sanchi. In Telugu we have the word sanchi, which means a bag. So we put it in that bag, these things get accumulated. So this keeps on going in this manner. Agami karma getting coupled with all the unspent karma of the prarabdham, plus the old karmas, everything get together, and then there is a new bag available for you to carry in the next life. So what is important in all this is Atmanam Tritayot Anyam Avadharayet. You should be able to pick out the Atman and then extricate the Atman from all these upadhis, because these upadhis will be confusing you. Upadhi is actually an admixture. What is not native to the Atman, all those anatma vastus are mixed with it, and then we think that I am very sick, I am very sad. All these things, this I amness actually comes from the Atman. Atma cannot be sick. What is sick is only the body. What is really sad is only the mind. So we pick out the characteristics of the Atman and then give it to the Upadhi, and the Upadhi's characteristics are transferred back into the Atman, and then saying, I am going to die. I will die one day. All these thoughts are because of this mutual superimposition that keeps on happening. So, ultimately, a jnani, what he actually destroys first is this Karana Sharira. The innermost Shariram should be the first one to go. A jnani completely destroys the Karana Shariram. He pierces through this Avaranam, this one that is covering up the Atman. He pierces through that, and once the Atman is revealed, it doesn't matter whether you have a mind or not, it doesn't matter whether you have a body or not, because they're all going to be drowned out in the effulgence of consciousness. So, whenever we see Bhagavan moving and talking, he has a body, of course, and he is able to write books and so on and so forth. They all used to feel confused, and he is also very normal. He is just like one of us. In what way is he different? He has done the most difficult thing that is not even possible for us to imagine, and that is piercing through the Avaranam. Avaranam called as the causal body, ignorance, that nescience that has been accumulated, that has been completely destroyed by the jnani, and because of that reason, jnanam is effulgent in him. Nothing else. He has mind, he has the physical body, but what he does not have is this causal body, because of which the constant generation of thoughts, they all come from the causal body. They sit for meditation, and our complaint is the mind wanders immediately. Where from are these thoughts coming? We are willing that there should not be any thoughts at all. We are determined not to have any thoughts. But somehow the thoughts come. Very strange thoughts. In fact, things which you normally not think of will come during the time of meditation. That's our experience, is it not? That is quite normal, says Bhagavan. When this was complained to Bhagavan by Kunjaswami, Bhagavan said, it's normal. What is inside has to come out. Unless it comes out, you will not be able to move forward. So don't worry about this. You should not really worry and feel disappointed or frustrated about the fact that the thoughts are not possible to control. We do not know anything about what has gone inside. They all have to come out. Let them come out. But what we should do is, the way in which sadhana should be done according to Bhagavan is, it's okay to have thoughts, but moment you realize that there is a thought, I am in the mind identified state, moment this recognition happens, which happens to all of us. Maybe for some it will take a long time after we have gone all over the world 3 times. We may come back to the meditation state. But for some, immediately it will happen. So a smart sadhaka, what he has actually achieved is setting up this sensor within himself. He has a sense of losing that state of peaceful, thought-free kind of a state, and I have moved on to the mind-identified state. There is mentation taking place, mental activities going on. He immediately recognizes and goes back. Bhagavan says, this is what you can do. You cannot really fight with the thoughts, because they are all accumulated over so many hundreds of lives. They are all there, and they will keep on coming out. Let them come out. Don't worry about that, but do this. Switch from this state, the state of that conscious, peaceful, thought-free awareness. Please do that switching. That's real sadhana. That is a smart way of sadhana. So the key word in this verse is Atmanam avadharayet. There may be many upadhis, limitations seen by you, but you should be able to realize that Atma is not any of this limitation, and you should extricate the Atman from this. I will just read out a beautiful verse by Tayumanavar. Bhagavan was, very frequently he used to quote from Tayumanavar Swami, because he has talked about Maunam like nobody else has done. Tayumanavar Swami's songs about Maunam are extraordinarily beautiful. And this is the last chapter known as Ananda Kalip. Anandam is bliss. Kalip is reveling in this bliss of the self. So he pours out his heart in this. And this is a thing, and it is in a folk tune, the folk song kind of a thing. Paradi bhudam ni allai. You are not. This par is this earth. Paradi is all the five elements, starting from earth and water and so on and so forth. Paradi bhutam ni allai. You are not. Unnipar. Notice this. Unnipar. Indriyam karanam ni allai. You are not this indriyas. You are not the antakaranam, called as manas, buddhi and all. You are not this. Arai. Investigate. After noticing this, that I am not any of these things. If you are able to perceive a thought, you are not the thought. But we get identified with the thought, though it is very, very clear that I am having this thought, so I should be different from the thought. I am having this sensation in the body, I am not the sensation. I am different from the sensation. So, Arai, investigate, he says, Unarvu ni endran, you are consciousness. Unarvu alone, you are awareness alone. Unarvu ni endran ayyan, my Lord, he told me this. Anbai uraitha sol, Anandam toshi, he says, this is what he told me in a very, very affectionate manner. My Lord, my Guru told me, you are awareness. You are nothing but awareness. So you need to really pull out that awareness which is mixed up with all these things. I amness alone. I am is the truth. I am so and so, I am this is the illusion. Is the upadhi. Moment we say I am this, then we are added on an upadhi for us. So extricate your I amness from all these things and stay as I am. Be still and know that I am is God. I am God is what Bible says. I am is God. This is what Bhagavan used to often quote this particular thing. So in this Ananda Kalip, Tayumanava Swami talks about these things. I'll just mention about a great devotee who had this experience. He was a person from Denmark. He was a mystic from Denmark. And he was quite different from the rest of the crowd. Rabindranath Tagore, when he was visiting England, after his Nobel Prize, he visited England and stayed in aristocrat's place. One day when he was going out for a walk, Rabindranath Tagore saw a young man in his 20s doing some gardening work in that place. He was a gardener. But something about him struck. What it was not possible for him to really describe. Something about him. So he picked up a conversation with him and he was convinced that this man is an extraordinary person. He himself being a great soul, he was able to identify another one immediately. This person's name is Emanuel Sorensen. And he told him, come to India because India is the place for all the yogas. Please come there. He was spiritually very evolved and India is the land of spirituality. Please come to India. He invited him. And after some time, this boy went to Shantiniketan in Bengal. And he was with Rabindranath Tagore for some time. And then he went to Himalayas, spent a lot of time. In fact, he spent close to about 50 years in India. He was in the Himalayas and there he met some people coming from Ramanashramam. Paul Brenton also he met. He met a devotee by name Evans Wentz. You can see some of his articles in Mountain Path. He was a Buddhist actually, Evans Wentz. So he met all of them and then through them he came to know that there is a great sage by name Ramana Maharshi. So he comes to Ramanashramam and then spends some time in the ashram. In Bhagavan's presence one day, he had a great experience. He was sitting in silence and the whole hall was silent. And suddenly in that silence, he heard distinctly Bhagavan's voice. As though Bhagavan was speaking to him. We are all aware. We are always aware. These are the words spoken in English to Sorensen. These are the words that he heard. We are always aware. That had a tremendous impact on Sorensen. He later on called himself as Shunyata Bhaba. He is more popular as Shunyata Bhaba. And he, after even Bhagavan's Mahanirvana, also he continued. He came to America. He spent I think maybe a decade in California. And he had a freak accident and he passed away in America. So his teaching was always about we are always aware. Our real nature is awareness alone. Unarvena mayulam undipara, says Bhagavan. Satsvabhasika chitvavetara chit kva itara sattayahi chit chittayahyaham. That is what the Sanskrit portion says, but the Tamil one says, Unarvenam ayulam undipara. We are awareness and nothing else. So, this catching hold of the awareness which is mixed up with all these upadhis is the sadhana. That is why Bhagavan says, concentrate on this I amness. Who am I? Find out. Your conscious presence is with you all the time. You can deny everything else but not your own conscious presence. That is there with you all the time. You should abide in that conscious presence all the time and find out what is the source from which this light is coming from within me. When you do that, you yourself become that which you always been. What was all the time within you, hidden within you, that comes out, that reveals itself, and you realize that you are awareness alone. And that is all the sadhana. So he says here, Bhagavan says here, Shankara, Atmanam avadharayet. And that should be our sadhana, pulling out what is hidden in all these upadhis, these three bodies, and then experiencing that as I own. That is the sadhana. The next verse, there is time for one more verse. I will just panchakoshadi yogena tat tanmaya ivasthitaha shuddhatma neelavastradi yogena spatiko yata. Once again a great imagery comes, a metaphor comes. Bhagavan says, கோஷங்கள் 5 முதல் கூட்டுறவால் ஆன்மாவும் மாசிலதேயாயினும் அவ்வம்மயம் நேரே சருவும் நீல படாதி கலப்பால் நிர்மலமாம் ஸ்பட்டிகம் போலவே ஒட்டா பொருள். The Atman does not mix with anything but appears to mix with all these things. And for that he gives an imagery. The imagery is, there is a crystal ball, or let us say a crystal lingam is there. It is totally transparent and it is colorless. But if you keep a cloth of a distinct color like Neela Vastradi, if it is a blue color cloth, this crystal which had no color at all looks like blue now. It becomes blue. You keep a yellow vastram, it becomes yellow. This yellow or blue, this blueness or yellowness does not belong to the spatikam, to the crystal. But to the onlooker, it has acquired these colors. Atma is like this. All these layers around it, they are transferring their color, making the Atman look as though that it has got all these characteristics from these things. So he is going to talk about the 5 koshas here. All of us know the koshas are Annamaya kosham, which is the bhautika shariram. The physical body is Annamaya kosham. It is made of food. It grows by food. Without food it will die. It is Annamayam. The next kosham is Pranamayam. This Pranamaya kosham is basically a physiological sheath. No, the life breath is there in this. There is a respiration going on. And there is metabolism taking place in this layer. There is a physiological layer. It's a physical layer. The next layer is a physiological layer. Next layer is Manomaya kosham, which is more subtle than the Pranamaya kosham. Though we cannot see Pranan, we can see the body, not see the Pranan, but we can feel the Pranan. In mind, even that is not there. It is totally invisible. Mind's activity we know, and we cannot really explain it. What is this thought? We cannot explain what thought is. So Manomaya kosham is the psychological layer. And beyond the mind, there is this buddhi, which is known as Vijnanamaya kosham, which is the cognitive layer. And finally the layer they called as Anandamaya kosham, because this Anandamayam is the bliss that one really experiences in deep sleep. When you have everything else is lost, the bliss is sustained there and you are able to recollect that bliss later on. So this causal body, which is called as Anandamaya kosham. So the 3 bodies have been split up into 5 koshas. Why this? We may wonder. Why 3 bodies? They are good enough. Good examples you are able to give. We also add to the burden of understanding all these layers. 5 koshas and other things. These examples or these models are with different perspective. The first model is from the perspective of the jiva's experience of the world through the avasthas that he is having. The Jagrat avastha, the Swapna avastha and the Sushupti. For these 3 avasthas, you attach one body to each one of them, and this is the way the Mandukya Upanishad describes about consciousness. I'll come to that later, because this is a very heavy subject. And Karika, written by Gaudapadacharya and Mandukya Upanishad, talks about, in fact, he goes to the extent of giving a name, a distinct name to the waker, the dreamer, and also the deep sleeper. For each one of them, he gives a name. And ultimately says, all the 3 are only one, and there is something beyond that thing, and let us call that as Turiyam, the fourth one. Turiyam means fourth one. So that is what it says. But here the perspective or the purpose is different to split it into the 5 koshas. And the purpose is for you to explain it through the functions that we go through in our life. This Annamaya kosham, the function of, eating and then growing and, doing all the other activities with the body and so on. The Pranamaya kosham has got a distinct function of, circulation, respiration, all these things. The Manomaya kosham has got a distinct function of thinking, doubting. In fact, mind is can be defined as a doubter. Doubts arise only in the mind all the time. Even when something is very clear, our prarabdham will be such that why should it be this we will have. So doubting mind. And the buddhi that determines in a very decisive manner. It says, this is this. I have seen this before, it must be this. So that function is there. There is a cognitive kind of a function. And another function for this Vijnanamaya kosham, the buddhi, the Vijnanamaya kosham, another function that it has is, that is where the doership is there, the agency. How do we feel that I have to do this? I am the one who has done that. Where does the thing happen? Somehow something gets done and then we claim credit for that. I have discovered this. I have found out this. I am going to do it and I have done it. This willpower, which is the basis for our ego, that is there in the Vijnanamaya kosham. And Bhagavan says, I thought is nothing but Vijnanamaya kosham. It's a very important clue. Because most of the places in Ramana's philosophy, only one know I thought, and then he says that you go through the I thought and then get into the origin of the I thought and so on and so forth. But he very cleverly relates to the traditional Vedantic method, and he says, I thought occurs in the Vijnanamaya kosham. When we wake up from deep sleep, for a very small fraction of a second, the avaranam or the veiling of your own self, which was happening in deep sleep, that gets removed. That blanket gets removed. The Atman shines for a fraction of a second, and then the I thought or the Vijnanamaya kosham takes over from that time onwards. So that day's to-do list will appear before you. Entire thing appears before you, and the whole world is created at that point of time. The I thought comes, which is the subject. It's actually a relative subject, but it is a subject. As far as we are concerned in our life, the I thought is the subject. And that this happens, that is there in the mind, idam, aham and idam. That this thought happens in the mind. Subject is buddhi, the object is the mind and all the thoughts. The entire world arises. So that is how the whole thing. So one of the functions of the Vijnanamaya kosham is to give you the feeling of being an agent. The doership that happens in Vijnanamaya kosham. And our sadhana, as I said, has to happen in the Vijnanamaya kosham. You have to trace the I thought, then go to the root of the I thought, as suggested by Bhagavan. The traditional Vedanta talks about Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. Nididhyasam is the actual Atmic meditation. Meditation on the Atman is Nididhyasam. But Bhagavan cuts short all these things and he says that this is the fundamental thought. After this thought comes, the world really appears before you. This is the root thought. Hold on to this root thought. When you hold on to this root thought and you try to find out where from is this thought is arising, or even just keeping on with that root thought will ultimately take you beyond the thought onto the self and self actually reveals itself. So these Pancha Koshas have a different perspective for being discussed. So there are two different models. One model is the Sharira Trayam, and this is the Pancha Kosha Prakriya. All these Prakriyas are finally going to make you to do this sadhana. I am not this. When I say that I am hungry, it is the Pranamaya Kosham that is actually hungry, and hunger and thirst are detected in the Pranamaya Kosham, but we say, I am hungry. Atman can never become hungry. Why is the Atman? Atman does not have any hunger or thirst. So Pranamaya Kosha's characteristic has been imposed on this. That is why this Neela Vastram, it transfers its color, which is not native to the Spatika Lingam. That Spatikam, that crystal, it does not have any color at all, but it has acquired a color. For that reason, he is giving this example. When I say that I am really very sad today, I am very happy today, we are talking about the mind's activity and the mind's emotions. Because the mind is the emotional zone, the zone of emotions. So whatever occurs in the mind, we say that I am sad, I am not happy with this, I want this. All these things happen in the mind. Similarly about the buddhi and other things. So these koshas are enumerated only to tell you that your confusion with all these things, please look at it carefully. You as Atman do not undergo any of these changes, any of these experiences. They are for Anatman, they are all for things other than the Atman. Tajjadam hi asat, says Bhagavan. Vigraha, Indriya, Prana, Dhi, Tamaha. These 5 layers, Bhagavan in his own way has mentioned this. Vigraham is this physical layer. Indriya is Indriyas. Vigrahendriya, Prana, Dhi. Dhi is Buddhi. Tamaha. Tamaha is the Anandamaya Kosham. He has mentioned it in his own. Naham, I am not this. You should be able to get that. Naham. And then you add another aham in order to get the meaning. Aham ekasat. I am not this. I am ekasat. Tajjadam hi asat. They are all asat. They are nanatmans. They are not me. That kind of a, abhyasam one has to really cultivate in oneself. So that is the meaning of all these 5 koshas. I will stop with this and then we will continue for a little more time with this verse in the next session.